guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I am going to be doing a Q&A. I love Q&As because sometimes I get the same question from like emails and my Instagram, and so just being able to take all of those questions and put them in one video is something I really love to do because I really love answering all you guys' questions and being able to inform you on all things military. So I hope you guys enjoy this video. A lot of the questions came from my community tab on YouTube. Since I hit 10,000 followers, I now have a community tab. So just be sure to like look at that every once in a while to make sure you're not missing anything like Q&As and like updates on stuff. So yeah, I'm super excited about the questions that you guys asked, and I'm not gonna be able to answer all of them, but they were really, really good questions. So I'll probably do like a whole video on like some of these questions because I can get really deep into some of them, but I really appreciate all the questions that you guys asked. And anyways, let's get started. So one thing that I love about these questions is there were a lot of questions that were like, how do you keep up time in prayer and on the word? How do you stay strong in your relationship with God? And how do you stay strong with Connor in your relationship with God? And stuff like that. And it's just super cool to hear those questions because it makes me feel good knowing that you guys want to hear stuff about like my relationship with God and stuff like that. And so the first question by Hannah Rose is, do you have any tips on staying consistent in prayer and in the word? And even I have difficulty staying consistent because like you get distracted by life, and so sometimes you choose life over your relationship with God. And so one thing that has helped me stay consistent is finding like a story that I really love or a devotional that I really love. And so I'll go to that story in the Bible and I'll read through it, or I'll pick a topic like my identity in the Lord, and a really good book about identity is Romans, or I'll do a devotional in the Bible app that's like strengthening your relationship with God or something like that, that really keeps me interested and wanting to know more. And I specifically like devotionals because it's teaching you something and also giving you small scripture. So if you're starting out and don't really know what to read, you have that small scripture that you now know because it was in your devotional. And so that's something that I really love to do when I'm kind of getting off track, is go to devotionals. And then also with prayer, staying consistent in prayer, is we as women, we talk a lot in our heads. Like if you guys are like me, I have conversations in my head all the time. And sometimes those conversations can turn into like anxiety or worrying and stuff. And a really cool thing that you can do is put God at the beginning of that conversation in your head, because it's not like you can take away that conversation because it's going to happen, but saying like, you know, maybe you're worried about a test or something, and saying, God, instead of me worrying about this in my head, I'm gonna put you first and say, how can I pray through this? How can I pray through this test? And just thinking in ways of prayer, or even just like talking to God. I know, again, like I talk to myself all the time, and so instead of talking to myself, I can just talk to God. And so just shifting your focus from yourself to Him in your mind, shift your focus from talking to yourself in your head or having chaos in your head to having a conversation in your head with Him and allowing Him to lead you through all of those thoughts. And so that really helps me stay consistent because it's retrained my brain, you know, renewing of the mind, to first put God at the front of that anxiety. Or if I'm talking to myself, instead of talking to myself, I'm now talking to Him. And so it just helps you be consistent. And again, like there's sometimes where I fall and I'm not consistent, and I do get anxious and I let my mind consume me instead of putting Him first. But it just takes practice, and we're not all perfect, so just know that. But I think devotionals, and then again putting Him at the front of your mind, really, really helps. And then also she had a question about, do I have a Snapchat? And I do not have a Snapchat. Well, I do have a Snapchat, but I never use it because I just use Instagram stories like all the time, and then I'll use like Snapchat filters. So I do have a Snapchat, but I don't ever use it, so I just say that I don't have a Snapchat. All right, so Maritza, I believe that's how you say your name, Ramirez, asked, what is the hardest thing about being a milso? And I think the hardest thing about being a milso or a military significant other is that a lot of people don't understand you. And so you can get consumed by loneliness. And that can be really hard because you want, you know, like our desire is to connect with people because you want them to understand you and, you know, stuff like that. And when you're talking to someone who's not in a military relationship, their perspective on the military is way different, or they don't understand like when your significant other is gone and how that actually feels. And so I just think it's super important to have communities even if they're online, like even if you meet someone online and you have a conversation with them, just knowing that there's someone out there who is like you is so awesome. And I love this channel because you all know exactly what I'm going through, and I know what you guys are going through. But I think that's one of the hardest parts, is if you don't have a community, it can be hard and you can feel lonely because not a lot of people know what you're going through. Another question she asked is, am I going to be making more merch? And the answer is yes. I have been working on a lot of new ideas for my Etsy shop and stuff like that. And something that I'm doing right now is I'm making shirts that have to do with the military but don't have to do with the military, if that makes sense. So the stuff that I have now is boldly like, I love my sailor, I love this, I love that. And you can tell that you're a military significant other. But what I'm trying to do is like make them cute shirts without looking like they're military shirts, if that makes sense again. And the reason that I'm doing that is sometimes you like to like boldly say, you know, I'm a military significant other because you have that pride and, you know, stuff like that. But other times you kind of just want to blend in and you just want to have a cute shirt. And so that's what I'm working on, doing that. I'm making hats, but I also have a job. And so I'm trying to do my job while also do YouTube and have apparel. So it's kind of hard and it's taking a while, but I am working on it and I'm super excited about like stuff that's coming because I have like a crop top that I'm working on, and so just like super excited about it. But yes, I am making more merch. Okay, so next question is from Yuli Dominguez, and sorry if I'm butchering all of you guys' names, but she asked, is it better to marry before boot camp or after boot camp? And I was actually talking to my husband about this, and I was thinking after boot camp, but he actually said before boot camp. And he was like telling me why and stuff. So we came to this conclusion that it really just depends on your intention. And really like marriage depends on that anyways, like your intentions. Because if you're doing it for the money, then obviously you shouldn't be doing that. But if you're doing it because you love each other, then like do whatever you feel like you should do. Whatever you feel called to do, do it. And he was saying before boot camp, because after boot camp, there's gonna be like, he has a school or he's, you know, busy all the time, and so it's going to be really hard to plan a wedding, have honeymoon, and, you know, stuff like that. And so doing it before allows you to plan and have more time together before he gets shipped off into the military. And I had never really thought about that, so he made a really good point to have your special time together before he goes into the military, because as a lot of us know, like me and Connor never even really had a honeymoon. Like we've had like 3 mini honeymoons because he's in the military, and we never have time for that. So if you're able to do it before boot camp and you're able to have time together like a honeymoon, and you love each other, and the reason that you want to marry is because you love each other, then by all means go for it, do it. But again, like your intentions, know that marriage is hard. I always feel like I have to have that spiel. So yeah, whenever you feel like it's the best time for you, you do it, because every military relationship is different and I can't really tell you when to get married. All right, so the next question by Miranda is, how and when did you and Connor's relationship with the Lord get stronger? So I'll address Connor's relationship with the Lord first, and then I'll address mine. So one of the ways that Connor's relationship with the Lord got stronger is his openness. There's a lot of guys out there, and Connor is the typical guy where when we first met, he didn't share his feelings. And I think a lot of guys are raised where they feel like they can't share their feelings, or they can't be vulnerable, or they can't be sensitive. And this doesn't allow them to share their heart and grow in their relationship with God. And so once Connor was able to be open, once he was able to share his feelings, his relationship with God grew so much more, because he was able to target like those deep feelings. He was able to be more vulnerable and open with me and share what's going on in his heart. And this really, really grew him. And that's also how I guess I was too. I feel like we all, when we target those deep wounds inside of our heart, or like get really vulnerable with ourselves, we're able to grow in our relationship with God, because we're able to not only be vulnerable with each other, but also be vulnerable with God, who already knows our heart. And God created us to be relational, and I think part of that relationship is being able to be vulnerable with each other and being able to pray with each other through those struggles. So if I struggle you know, with anxiety, Connor is able to pray for me through that anxiety, and so it allows us to be closer together. together because he knows the deepest parts of my heart. And so I think that's really, really important to be vulnerable with each other and connect on a deeper level and share those struggles with each other. And so that's how I think our relationship separately grew, but also with each other, because we were able to be vulnerable with ourselves, be vulnerable with each other, be vulnerable with God. And then another thing that really, really grew us is our communities. When we moved to Washington, he got into a really, really awesome men's group, and I got into an awesome women's group. And for him, being surrounded by guys who love Jesus affected him like tremendously, because I think in the military, like, there aren't a lot of guys who love Jesus. And so when you're around guys who don't love Jesus, it can again affect you. And something that I'm reminded of this past weekend, my pastor said, birds of a feather flock together. And if you're around people who are a bad influence and you get easily sucked into that, then you might turn into a bad influence. And as a man, he is supposed to be our leader, and so you don't want him to fall into that. So men, I would encourage you to find a group of men who uplift you and encourage you and love Jesus. And women, I would encourage you to find women who also encourage you and uplift you and who can openly talk about Jesus with you. And it's so amazing because the other day, like during Memorial's Day, me and Connor had a barbecue, and we were sitting outside and we were playing like games outside and having the barbecue, but we were openly talking about Jesus, like just outside. And it was just so amazing because like I have never been in a community where we just like sit and have a barbecue and talk about Jesus. Like, it was amazing. So I think that's how our relationship has grown a lot, because I'm not afraid to talk about Jesus with my friends. And so it enables me to be more open to like other people. And so yeah, again, I think that's another way that it's grown with us, because we see our friends and our married friends love each other and talk about Jesus, and so it helps us want to do the same and encourages us to do the same. So definitely, like, community is awesome, vulnerability is awesome. Hopefully I didn't ramble too much, but all of that is awesome. All right, so Roseanne said, would you do a meet and greet in Washington? And the answer is yes, I definitely will. Trying to find a time to do that. Also want to bring Connor with me, so trying to find a time where his schedule works for him, but definitely want to do a meet and greet, possibly going to be in Seattle, because I think that's kind of the middle for all the bases. So yeah, just make sure to be following me on Instagram if you want to be aware of the meet and greets, because I usually will post on Instagram. All right, Jonah asked, how long is Connor's contract? His contract is for 6 years. He did 2 years of schooling because he's a fire controlman, and his contract will end next October, and so then we'll have to decide, you know, what we're doing. All right, so Casey asked, did you find a lot of resources recommended through Connor, or did you go out and find them yourself? So I really found all of my resources, or at least like 99% of them, through Connor. And I think that's super important, because resources are great. Getting a general idea is super, super great, but every situation is different. And so resources can give you a general idea, but you can't know for sure unless you ask your husband, because he knows. If he's, you know, getting shipped out in 2 weeks, then he's gonna know all the details of being shipped out and where they're going and what they're doing and stuff like that. And so I'd really encourage you guys to, when you have a question of any kind, to first ask your boyfriend, significant other, or husband, because they're gonna know the most. And some people say like, he doesn't explain it right, or I get confused. And so I would encourage you also to just sit down and like be like, okay, I need you to explain this to me like in a different way, or in like civilian language or something, and talk like calmly through these. Maybe he can draw a picture or something, because he is your significant other, and he really needs to be the first person you talk to when it comes to any situation. And also, if he doesn't know the answer, he can always ask like his command or someone else who works with him, because there's bound to be someone else who has gone through that situation who can also help you. But again, I would go through him first, because he knows the most about the situation. All right, so the last question that I will answer is from Carla, and she says, I believe in the Lord, but my boyfriend does not. How can we grow stronger despite our differences? And as a general statement, like biblically, being unequally yoked is totally hard. And it says that in the Bible, that you should be with someone who has the same beliefs as you, because God knew it would be hard. And so I would encourage you guys to seek after someone who does have the same beliefs as you, because even if it's like political views, if you don't have the same like views that are strong like these, you definitely can butt heads. And when it comes to beliefs, it can be really hard when you raise children and have a family and stuff like that. And so just as a general statement, I would encourage you guys to find someone who believes the same thing as you. However, if you do not have someone who believes the same thing as you, in the Bible, it says that you as a woman can win over your significant other by your actions. And so really, I would just encourage you to focus on you, because when your relationship with God grows, the other person sees that and they kind of question like, how is she like that? How is she not getting angry in times of anger? Or how is she so patient in times of anxiety? And so when they see that, oftentimes they're like, I want that, because a Christian lifestyle radiates so much that people are like, I want that. I want what you have. And so really, again, I would just encourage you to grow your own heart, because when that happens, that can change him in amazing ways. And my husband actually reminded me of a movie called The Case for Christ that he watched that I haven't seen yet, but he said it's a really good movie, and it's basically about a guy who, he's an atheist and he's married to a woman who eventually has a relationship with God. And the movie's just like really great because it has to do with the woman being in love with Jesus and the guy not. And so yeah, it is hard definitely being unequally yoked, because it can be discouraging, and because they're your significant other, you desire them to know Jesus like you, but when they don't and you still want to be with them, you really just have to focus on yourself and continue to pray for them, continue to pray over them, and just asking God to change their heart. So yeah, I hope that helped. I hope that was encouraging a little bit, because I know a lot of people who they love Jesus and their husband does not. And even like just a quick vulnerable side of me is that for a long time, Connor's relationship with God was less than mine, and he was a Christian, but he wasn't growing as fast as I was. And so it can be really hard when you feel like the spiritual leader and you desire them to be the spiritual leader, but they're not. And it can be, you know, again, frustrating, but just continue to pray for them, encourage them in a lot of ways. So yeah, again, I hope that helps. I hope that was encouraging in some ways. But yeah, that's the end of my Q&A. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope that I answered a lot of your questions. And if you have more questions, you can always leave them down and I'll try to comment fast. But again, a lot of these questions will be put in bigger videos because they're such amazing questions. Just like a little just like a little reminder, be sure to follow me on social media, be sure to subscribe to my channel, like this video if you liked it, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.